Bashful teen David Rice has a keen interest in lovely Millie, who fantasies about venturing to the far corners of the planet. At the point when he shocks her with a little gift, a snow globe of the Eiffel pinnacle, prodding menace imprint gets it and tosses it out onto the cold surface of the stream. Not entirely settled, David branches out on the ice and recovers it, waving, then, at that point, falls through the ice and is cleared away from the opening by the quick current. He is sure to kick the bucket in the freezing water, without air, furthermore, unexpectedly winds up lying inclined in the library between the bookshelves, in an enormous spout of gallons of water, heaving and alive. He walks home, dousing wet, where his dad reprimanded him. David goes into his room, putting a chain on the entryway, yet, when his furious dad blasts it open, there is just a whirl of wind. David has evaporated. Once more he ends up in the clammy walkway of the obscured library, and acknowledges he has magically transported there. It occurs to him that he at long last has a method for transforming him, to get away from his circumstance, the same way his mom deserted the family when he was 5. He magically transports home and recovers a little reserve of cash and a couple of possessions. Yet, before he leaves town, he stops outside Millie's home. The following day he is on a bus to the city, where he leases a modest room. He works on magically transporting in the recreation area, figuring out how to control his power. Then, at that point, he cases a bank, and loots it by magically transporting straightforwardly into the vault around midnight. He chuckles as he understands his pack isn't sufficiently large to remove all the cash, magically transports back to his ratty inn for another pack. Nonetheless, the puzzling Roland shows up at the bank examination, professing to be from the NSA, strikingly unsurprised by this locked entryway burglary. Years have gone by, and David has a costly city condo, papered with photos of his reality voyages, and a little vault room brimming with cash. He partakes in the delights of life any place they are, riding in Fiji, eating on the Sphinx in Egypt, getting a young lady in an English bar. He stages starting with one spot then on to the next in his home, as opposed to strolling even 2 speeds. His tranquility is upset by the appearance of Roland, whose electrical weapon and wires keep David from magically transporting. We discover that Roland's main purpose for existing is to annihilate jumpers, individuals who magically transport, for just God ought to have the ability to be all over the place. Frantic, David oversees some way or another to move away, transporting back to his childhood room. His dad is made aware of his presence, and comes to the room entryway, beseeching him to remain. David magically transports away as his dad powers the entryway open. His charming way of life disturbed, he chooses to see his lost love, Millie. He tracks down her still in a similar town, working at a bar. Yet again his old enemy imprint figures out how to stir up some dust. What's more, in a hurry David magically transports with him into a bank vault, then, at that point, leaves him there. Getting back to the bar, he requests that Millie go with him to Rome. She is stunned, however, as it's her deep-rooted dream she can acknowledge. At the point when they get to Rome, he partakes in her pleasure as he shows her around the antiquated city, however is recoiled when they find the arena shut. Instead of take no for a response and return one more day, he circumvents the corner. Furthermore, when she gets up to speed, he is holding a door open to concede her. He keeps on opening entryways from within as they seek after their confidential visit, until they attempt to go down to the floor of the arena. Out of nowhere he is shocked to meet another jumper, Griffin, who illuminates him that he's not by any means the only one and that there is an entire gathering like Roland, paladins, who need to kill jumpers. Furthermore, 2 of them abruptly turn up. Griffin is ready to battle their techniques, and in the end curbs the aggressors and magically transports away. David follows Griffin's magically transport to his nest, clarifying some things. He is confounded, and Griffin's short clarifications, for example, making sense of he will drop a paladin into certain sharks, never really illuminate him. Griffin makes sense of that David can't bear to have a sweetheart, family, or companions, that they are dead, that the paladins will kill them to get to him. Meanwhile, Roland has been gotten to converse with Imprint, whom David left in a bank vault. Mark, depleted from over and over recounting his story to doubting authorities, makes sense of what David's identity is, where they are from, all that he knows. Quickly jumping all over this chance, Roland visits David's dad. David gets back to Millie and consents to leave, and they move away from authorities inside the stadium, just to be confined outside. David doesn't hop, he advises Millie to return to the lodging, yet she declines. Hours after the fact, David is as yet being addressed by the police, who are holding him and his identification. A lady shows up, advising him to get out and forsake his young lady, letting him know how long he needs to get away. He perceives her from his young life pictures, she is his mom. He finds Millie and takes her to the air terminal, then, at that point, makes sense of miserably that he can't return home with her. David understands that Millie will be in peril when she gets off the plane in the USA, yet when he asks Griffin for help, Griffin declines. David follows Griffin through bounces, attempting to persuade him. Griffin swipes a vehicle and they ride together, Griffin magically transporting the vehicle through traffic as it suits him. They trade a few pieces of data. The paladins killed Griffin's folks when he was 5, and David's mom left when he was 5. David gets some information about magically transporting the vehicle, and Griffin laughingly recounts a jumper who attempted to magically transport a structure he passed on in the endeavor. At long last, Griffin consents to help David for a restricted commitment. The numerous drawings of Roland in Griffin's home clarify that he has resentment against this paladin. David gets back to ask Griffin more inquiries, and this time the gamble to his family sinks in. He magically transports to his experience growing up home, and tracks down his dad on the floor. Crying, he magically transports his dad to a medical clinic trauma center, attempting to find support for him. He magically transports to see Imprint in prison, asking everything he said to Roland. Mark says he let him know everything. They show up in the USA, and Millie's flight previously showed up an hour prior. He magically transports to her condo, expecting to get her out rapidly, yet Roland and his assault crew show up before he can start to make sense of. He figures out how to magically transport her to Griffin's nest, and Griffin reprimanded him for it, in light of the fact that Roland can straightforwardly follow his magically transport. Griffin plans to leave his home, however when Roland seems an amazing clash starts. At a certain point Griffin magically transports a transport at Roland, who figures out how to plunge under it as it bobs. David is caught, webbed up in an edge of the room by Roland's electrical wiring to be discarded later. As Millie liberates David, her indignation at the circumstance and apprehension about his abnormal power are clear. She requests that he simply bring her back home, and let her be. Normally, she is before long caught and kept locked down. Griffin intends to take a bomb to Millie's loft to kill Roland, be that as it may, this will include killing every other person there, including Millie. David doesn't need that, so both of them magically transport all over the planet, battling about the bomb, then over the detonator, tumbling from the Domain State Building and showing up in a disaster area, where David at long last snares Griffin in some fallen electrical cables as powerful as Roland's snares. David magically transports Roland to a cavern and leaves him there, saying he ought to be thankful he didn't drop him at the sharks. David disappears, and Roland strolls to the cavern opening, winding up a segregated bluff in the stupendous gulch. It is winter, and we see David approach a costly home and thump. A teenage girl answers the door, followed minutes after the fact by David's mother, who sends her girl to her room. David is there to figure out what everything means, and why she left him as a youngster. She makes sense of that she is a paladin, and when he caused his first to magically transport at age 5 she was unable to kill him, so she left him since she cherished him. He figures she ought to accomplish more, and she makes sense of that she is, this moment, since she's giving him an early advantage. He understands he won't get more from her. He goes out, and Millie meets him outside. He asks where she needs to go, and she says, "Shock me." They magically transport away.